All right, this is a little later than normal, but I said, gotta do it. I need to do it. People need to hear an episode of The Men of the House. Where do I start? How about we start here? Thank you for tuning in. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button, please hit the subscribe button. And if you are already a subscriber, find your favorite episode and maybe send it to someone and ask them to subscribe as well. That's how we're going to grow this thing. Because, yeah, it's been a little slow growth, but that's okay as long as it's organic. Also, for the viewers, we are going for a little different view today. I'm back in the chair. I did a few episodes from the desk. Now I'm back in the chair. So the backdrop's a little bit different because I rearranged bookshelves, etc., etc. But still my favorite brown chair in the corner. Let me make sure I'm actually recording. Yeah, I am. Yeah, but it is late and I wanted to kind of give some updates and check in with all of you, all the listeners. So, Asteroid of Fear. Welcome to another episode of the Men of the House podcast, where we explore the unfiltered truths of fatherhood, self care, mental health, and navigating the chaos of everyday life. And chaotic it has been. And I figure this would almost be like an unfiltered Friday episode in a way, but it's so fresh, I figure I'll share it now. And I have an interview lined up to release, Scart from the Supervillains, but I didn't have time to edit it, and you're about to find out why. So, what is today? It is Sunday. Yeah, so, Sunday evening. Normally I release these at midnight. We'll see if that happens, or if I just wake up and release it in the morning or release it at noon. We'll see. It depends on how late I want to stay up. Because it's already like, 22:02. So 10 p.m. for you non military people. But yeah, let's start with the week. So last week, about this time, well, I think I might have mentioned that we were taking a little school trip. It's one of those education first, explore America kind of a thing. And I was going to be excluded from this initially. Washington, D.C., and New York were the trips. Um, and I've been to D.C. a couple of times, I've been to New York as well. And I wasn't going to go. However, my wife was set to go, and our middle daughter, uh, well, she gave birth on the 14th. So once we knew that was kind of the timeline, there was a point we had to switch all the tickets, and I ended up being the one to go on this trip. Now, let's set this up. We live about 2 hours away from the airport, and we had a 7:20 flight out of Dallas. And that means we had to leave the parking lot on a charter bus at 2:30 a.m. from our location. So, and it's one of these days where they're like, you're not going to see your luggage till about 9 at night when we get to the hotel. So you have one luggage piece, and then you have um, what is it? You have like your luggage, and then one carry on. This backpack. Everybody has the same backpack, and everybody has the same lanyard. And so whatever you're going to take needs to be in the backpack. That means, like, if you take evening, morning medications, all that has to be there. I had my journal, I had a book because I thought I was going to read, and that wasn't how it happened. And we, I had, what was it? So we carry everything. What else did I have in that bag? Oh, well, because I was the chaperone for my daughter's group, which included all females, my wife had, we had toilet seat covers, wipes, had band aids, everything. My little med kit that's got Benadryl, aspirin, whatever one may need. I'm that kind of, it's better to have and not need and not have. And so I carried a lot of extra weight, sort of. And, going from Texas to DC, there was a temperature discrepancy as well, quite a bit. And a cold front was going to come through. And therefore, you're looking at layers plus, you know, a jacket or a hoodie. So I initially packed my hoodie in the suitcase and wore a flannel. And I'm glad I did because when we arrived at DFW, I ran into Christopher Nishida. He recognized the flannel and was like, "Hey." And I was like, "Oh, hey, you." I'm like, "Yes, I just saw you in November." And I remember us having a conversation about me pursuing being a death doula after taking care of Buck. And he had talked about, I think his grandmother was 92 and lives in the DFW or Arlington area. And so they were probably visiting her, I would imagine, would be my guess. But to run into Nishida Fuku at 5:20 in the morning was serendipitous and magical and a good start to the trip. If you think about the universe, the cosmos, the what is it, synchronicities, things in life that kind of let you know you're on the right path, you're where you should be. Um, yeah. So, and it represents the reggae music, reggae rock, that scene. It's about unity and togetherness, community, and love. You see the Kyle Smith VIP pass right behind me with my 311 poster that my best friend Andrew framed for me. So pretty cool. And but anywho, back to the story. So yeah, you're carrying everything through. And we get to the airport, unload our luggage. Some of it was like they didn't have enough storage bins, so some of us had to check our luggage. Uh, but we didn't have to pay, which was great because it was like their end, their side of the mistake. And but it's going to be a long day. And the night before, I spent all day running errands, packing. I laid down. Whoop picked me up, going to bed at midnight, and I set my alarm for 1:11. So I got a little bit of sleep, but then yeah, we ran the whole day and around DC. We got there, got onto the charter bus. We had our tour guide was Michael Dillinger, and our bus driver was Trust. He's been doing it a long time, but he got us there safely. And I do not exactly remember everything we seen the first day. All I know was day one was 32,000 and change on steps. So a little bit of walking. Um, I did make sure to wear my most comfortable, athletic, you know, nice kind of pants. Had my trusty Brooks because the Brooks have treated me better than on clouds. Well, they're more durable in that regard. Um, but yeah, a lot of walking. And And we got there. I think we started off like at a mall with some food at a food court. So there was options because you're talking about, let's say, a group of 20 something people, 22 to 24 people, maybe four or five adults. Um, so yeah, that gave us all the options. And then the kids were like, hey, we want to go shopping. And, we all have, I ended up having to be a chaperone, and each chaperone can kind of take their group wherever. I thought it was going to be more collective. We did go to like places in collectivity, but then it would be like, hey, chaperones, why don't you take your group and go explore, and we'll meet back here at X time. And the group I had, you know, they wanted, let's go shopping, and it was like one person ended up buying a pair of socks, and another kid bought some shoes from Foot Locker. I'm like, oh, or maybe Foot Locker. I don't know what it was, but the point was, is it seems like a store that we would have like in any mall in America. Why are you choosing this? And that was kind of my conundrum with as an adult to children of going, hey, like, why don't you look for something that we don't have or that we don't have access to, something that is like uniquely Northeastern? Um, but yeah, talking to kids in that 12, 13, 14 age range who know it all, yeah, mm-mm, they don't listen. So it was a it was a full time job. This trip, this adventure for me. But yeah, trying to manage them, keep them in line, trying to make everybody happy because some people like to shop, some people don't. Um, but usually by the time you ate and maybe hit a couple of stores, it was already time to be back and meet up and on to the next venture. And so at some point we ended up, oh yeah, because we wanted to see at night. Was that the day? I'm trying to think. One of the memorials we saw a day. No, it didn't get cold till the second day. But yeah, we ended up in our hotel. I think we stayed in Landover, Maryland. Kids had a curfew, but you're only staying there for 2 days, so it's like you don't want to fully unpack, but you kind of have to unpack enough. And um, it was like, you know, kind of unpack, check the TV out. Most TVs nowadays, what's cool is they got Netflix and or YouTube, and you can just log in. And so I throw that on, do something like that, and then um, wind down from all the walking. Shower. That was first day, big time shower. I was so gross from, when you're up like for 24 hours or reaching that kind of time frame, and you had an hour of sleep to like break up 2 days, you feel gross. So shower was in order, got to sleep, and then I set my alarm for 7:30 because the agenda every day was breakfast at 7 a.m. and then after breakfast it was off and running, touring, doing whatever, and then like by the time you get back it's 9, usually after 9 because they were going to be having curfews, I think, of like 9 at one point, and then it would be like 10:30 because we were getting back so late. But yeah, the second day was pretty. That's the day the temperature dropped. And so you woke up, the room was cold, I had to turn the heat on. And, in the north, it's a little bit different. Like, I'm in Texas and we have central AC. If you don't have AC, it's bad. You just don't not have AC. But in the Northeast, some people don't have AC. The heaters are different. How everything works is different. And so, because I think the Michael, the tour guide, was telling me like the thing on the wall like cools it, but the floor or around the edge of the floor, that's like where the heated parts is, and it's controlled by the thermostat on the wall. So a little bit different. And we but yeah, so like the second day we had the temperature drop, and that was the day it rained. So we had the umbrellas plus the flannel plus a hoodie, or a zip up hoodie for me so I could take it off. And our little friend who bought his shoes decided he was going to wear white Adidas out on a rainy day. This is the mentality. And when I asked, and the kids kind of asked us, like, why would you? Well, I didn't know. And it's like, sir, you have a computer in your pocket, in the palm of your hand, that just tells you everything you could possibly want to know, like the forecast. How did I know I was going to wear my jacket today and take the umbrella? Because the forecast. Speaking of which, I also had backup ponchos. So, these backpacks at least came equipped with water bottle one side, umbrella the other. Could have used a camelback because I drink a lot of water. And for the viewers, I'm holding the big Stanley or Big Yeti. And because we switched back, Stanley, no bueno. And my orange Yeti that I have, I think it's a 18 or 20 ounce because that one also fits in the car and I can take it, like carry it nicely. But it doesn't hold as much. So that was kind of a thing for me, having to buy waters everywhere you go and refill. But I think that day, we did some exploring. I don't know if that's where we went to the Natural History Museum. I think we got to see the White House or the Capitol, but we could only go so close because they had it blocked off due to everything that's been going on. Plus, they're setting up for stuff, different things. And then the biggest attraction was kind of getting to see, like, I think the Lincoln Memorial and stuff at night. That was kind of the highlight. And the rain and just how big everything was, and just the detail of the architecture is just mind blowing. And I was asking like one of the little kids, one of the little boys in the group, I said, he's the one wanting to go shopping, but I'm trying to break in and, hey, what else are you interested in? What do you want to be when you grow up? He said an engineer. I was like, okay, but you're like spending, more time worrying about shopping than you are like appreciating being in our nation's capital for one, but two, like, marveling at some of these monuments and stuff that were, we didn't have 3D printing. We didn't have all the tools we have now. There were people who made those things with hands and erected them, stood them up, built them, men. And, to take a moment in and to appreciate that. And then we got to see the Martin Luther King Memorial, which was pretty cool and powerful. And, I think like our tour guide said, like, you know, our kids kind of growing up on the phone, it's so much different than me as a Gen Xer growing up in the South where it was still very racist when I was growing up. Uh, you know, Trying to get them to comprehend and understand that, the reality of what this was, but then also that it really wasn't that long ago. And hey, take that in, like try to understand that. and what it means. I think they'll look back on it one day and maybe seeing where, but I can't blame or fault them because I think I was similar. Although I went to DC at 14 for a National Youth Leadership President convention type thing, but we wore suits every day. We got to go to the Pentagon, got to go to Quantico. It was very much more professional type of thing. But I was still, but we didn't have all the distractions. I mean, I was focused in, and, that was kind of one of the big kind of pet peeves of like the teachers and whatnot. And you can just kind of see it with, kids in their headphones nowadays. Half the time, it's like the tour guide's trying to give us instructions or tell us something, and the kids are talking instead of listening. Surprise. Or like, two of them in my group, I'm like, hey, pay attention. Like, nobody cares who's got the overbite. Okay? You got braces, he's got an overbite. So what? Like, you're missing important information. And so that was challenging as a chaperone and as a parent, um, because, I'm responsible for other people's children and for their safety and their well being. But, you know, I also like to teach them about life, good decisions, and that they should be paying attention, not, you know, chatting amongst themselves. I mean, their parents worked hard to pay for this trip. I know because we had to pay for the trip. And so, for them to go and not come back with, junk. And speaking of which, I'll get to that part. So, the second day gets a little bit more where it's like, hey guys, we're leaving tomorrow. So make sure when you come down to breakfast, like you have your bags ready. You bring your suitcases, your luggage with you because it's going back on the charter bus. We're going to see some tours, take the drive from DC to Manhattan. I don't remember how far it was, maybe 4 hours. And um, so, yeah. But then, I'm up at 5:30 because I've got to stretch. I've got to get ready. I've got to let my medicine kick in because once the blood pressure medicine kicks in, then it's like I got to pee, 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 pee. And of course, I hydrate in the morning with some Element or Podium, uh, and then have a cup of coffee, which is more pee, 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 pee. And so then I could, if I was going to have a snack or something, I could do that because I brought like some alternatives because I wasn't sure about the breakfast. Although, I got down there, it was pretty good. And I would eat mine real fast because the kids are always going to show up late, as they do. And while they were eating, I would take the key card and, the adults go sweep the kids' rooms and look at everything they left behind. They're like, no, we didn't leave anything behind. It's like, bullshit. You left it all behind. So, um, gather that, disperse it, get on the bus, do our tours, and I'm pretty sure I did some sleeping on the way to New York. Um, my daughter has pictures of everybody sleeping. I have a picture of one of the teachers sleeping. So, um, on the ghost tour, but my daughter's like, send it. I said, no way. I'm not allowing you to post your teacher sleeping on the ghost tour. I'm not going to tell you what teacher it was. But we were tired. I mean, you talk about like these days, this getting up like at 5:30 a.m. so I can be on point and ready for them when they're hitting breakfast at 7, making sure because if they didn't eat there, it's, a couple hours later they're going to be hungry and we might be commuting and you're buying snacks somewhere else, everything's more expensive, that whole rigmarole. And so, you know, like a leader, father, parent, chaperone, I'm trying to give them advice, trying to make sure they go with all their stuff. And, you know, leaders eat last and the go to bed last. Those kids were probably staying up, I would imagine. But I was tired and I slept as much as I could, but I would wake up in the middle of the night, back hurting a little bit, take some Tylenol, put the TENS unit on, and get back to sleep for a little bit. But yeah, I know we napped on the way to New York. We got to Manhattan and we started off, I don't know, at Hudson Market maybe, which had a lot of little cool eateries and whatnot. But I'm trying to think. We were somewhere in a lunch option and we were like a mile and a half from one of the most famous pizza shops, like in New York, like the original Ray's or something. And it's like, come on, guys, let's go a mile and a half. Like, this is once in a lifetime. Like, you know? No, I don't think like we should leave here. Plus, like the stores were there and they wanted to shop or something. I think. I don't know. It's hard. I can't remember. I get them kind of confused. The days run together. But I do remember like having, maybe it was in, we went to Alexandria, Virginia. And we went on a ghost tour. And I don't know if that's the place that had like, it was like this brick and mortar and it had like little food courts in it, had a bakery that closed right on the brink before I could get in there and get those last. Oh, I was so disappointed. The kids had pizza there. I had a lobster roll, a whoopie pie, and then a couple of cannolis from this place called Gigi Pasta, I think. I'm pretty sure I had pizza every day between DC because I had pizza on our first meal when we arrived because it was easily foldable. I could eat it quickly. It has all the food groups in one, and then manage the kids because I also didn't want to wait in the lines for all the stuff. But yeah, when we got back to New York, the pizza thing got me waffling between the two locations because I think I had pizza in both. But it was this idea of like, come on, let's go to something historical, go to a landmark. But they didn't want to. They wanted to shop instead. And I'm like, oh, I hate shopping. Like, and they'd be like, what do you want to shop for? Clothes and shoes. Where? I don't know. It's like, look, guys, you need a plan. We're on a limited amount of time. Let's look at the directory, pick a store, and whatever. And then, like, sometimes they would just take off walking. And I'm like, you know, they they can be a pain. I can assure you. They try to have a mind of their own, but they don't understand coming from a small place like where we are. Like, you are not there. You're in New York City, okay? Or you're Washington, D.C. You're in places that are dangerous. You need to be aware. You need to have situational awareness. Like, I wear over the ear headphones. They're like these little ones, and they just kind of go over your ear and not in your ear, so they're not noise canceling, so you can hear. Like, I can have them for a phone call, but you don't wear them like when you're on the treadmill or when you go for a walk because they're not loud enough. But they are loud enough to have a phone conversation on, but still hear around you if somebody's talking to you. And so I wear those. And but these kids, I mean, I think I made a joke that fucking kids are gonna start coming out of the womb with one AirPod in. It's gonna be that's evolution. But yeah, you know, they had to have a talk with them before the teachers, and they're like, look, when we get to New York, no headphones. Like already in DC and Virginia, like people miss instructions, they miss key details because they're either talking to each other or they have their headphones on and they're not listening. Big problem. And so that was kind of the thing with New York was like no headphones. No headphones. And it might have been the first day that we went to the Edge, which is I think the one of the tallest points in New York, and it's got that thing you walk out onto with a glass floor. And I'm telling you, when we got in the elevator and I'm thinking about how high we're going, and, you know, I didn't really look up at it and I didn't really, I don't know. I wasn't paying attention. I was paying attention to the kids. And so we just walk in this building and I didn't know we were going to be going 1,000 and something feet up in the air, which was a lot. And then we get in the elevator, it's crammed, it's kind of claustrophobic, and then the kids are like, "Oh, well, like, what if the elevator stops?" And I'm like, "Oh, please!" And I don't know if like you're gonna step off and the whole thing is glass, if it's windy, how close the rails are. But when you get out, you actually there's it's kind of like a foyer lobby type thing where there's people who can sit who don't want to be outside because it was chilly, and then they have some, everything in New York is the rotating doors, like turnstile type doors, but you get to go outside, take pictures, see the city. And of course, the kids wanted to take the pictures with through the glass or, sitting on top of the clear thing where you can see all the way down. And this is where I get into kids pushing the limits, is like, they told them no running, no jumping, no playing, no horseplay, call it no fucking around. Like, you're high up in the air. The railing around it is like glass panels, and then you have a couple of sections with clear glass in the floor, and it's like, yeah, this is not the time and place to be dicking around. And one of them was like, got up clumsily, kind of, I call it fucking around, like horseplay semi, and it's like, I was like, you're not supposed to. And even the other little boy was like, yeah, because it scared him, because I guess maybe it shook the glass because he was standing on it too. And he's like, yeah, they told you not, don't be doing that. And it's like, yeah, that's what I had to contend with. And how do you want to tell somebody else's child, like, hey, follow the rules, behave? Like, what don't you understand? You know, it's, they want to be in control, they think they're grown, and they're not. They got a long way to go. The world is different. And you know, I was out in the world at 17. I had my 19th birthday in Japan when we didn't have cell phones or any of that stuff. Or in the 90s, you have a friend go to jail. They just don't show up. You don't know how to get in touch with them, or even in the cell phone days. Um, no, but yeah, even my home phone days, having a roommate who went to jail didn't come home, and you're like trying to get a hold of him. Nobody knows where he's at. And it's finally like, oh, he was in jail. That's why. But I've had a couple of those instances, and it's frightening when you feel like you can't find somebody that you care about, and you know, and so this whole like chaperoning other people's children, I take that super serious. Just like if somebody was chaperoning my daughter, um, it would be for the best interest and safety of the child. That's what it's about. But you know, either her parents aren't giving her the discipline or something's not, amiss. But if she's friends with my daughter, that concerns me because, I don't want my daughter picking up the sass or the attitude and the whole, you know, try to break away from the group, do your own thing, and not understanding that there's safety in numbers and safety, period. Period. This is, I know what it's like to navigate the world on maps and senses, knowing where you should or shouldn't go. You get a feeling. And if you're not situationally aware because you're on your headphones or you're too busy not listening, or, yeah. So that was the part I didn't enjoy. But I mean, overall, it was good. You know, I wouldn't, I would do it again, but I would definitely make sure that, you know, talk to the parents beforehand and be like, hopefully your child is well behaved and respectful and understands, because I'm a pretty lenient person. Because I told my daughter at one point, I was like, look, I can stick you guys with the teacher and you can see how much fun you have then. Because I guarantee you, I am more lenient and go with the flow. Like, hey, we can go shopping, we can go look at records, we could do this, we could do that. Um, but yeah, we went into one store. That was the thing about, this impatience of no plan. Was we went into one, a Dwayne Reed, which is their version of Walgreens. I think it even says Walgreens Dwayne Reed, but it has all the Walgreens products inside. And we only had like, and it's because that one person took off walking, wanted to do their own thing and be in charge and be the leader and not listen. And people followed, and we end up in a Walgreens and wasting time in a Walgreens and looking in there. And instead of going, this is a Walgreens, let's look outside and look for something we don't have, you know, now you wasted 10 or 15 minutes of the 20 we got to be back. And, he ends up buying like $150 Roblox card just to buy something. And I'm like, I just don't get it. I mean, it's his money. You do what you want with it. It's not my child, not my money. But if you were to ask me, you know, you, just for the sake of buying something there, it's like, come on. I only got stuff that interested me. It wasn't much, like some Old Bay goldfish, because Old Bay is big in Maryland. Because we stayed in Maryland, and then when we were in New York, we stayed in Jersey. But yeah, I was more pastries, things I could eat, things that were, they had so much great Italian food, bakery stuff there. I went to Junior's Cheesecake, got a slice of cheesecake, carrot cake, and um, that was the one thing the kids that was pretty unique, that because that was our last before we were going back to the airport, was in Times Square. And they wanted to go to Cane's because they love Cane's chicken fingers. And the Cane's in Times Square, something else. It had like what would look like some sort of anime doll at the front, and then somebody greeting. They had a DJ in there that had a Cane shirt on. It was loud, busy, and like the kids don't understand. I'm like, hey, like a couple of you, like come over here. Let's find a table, put your stuff. And then I gave up. This lady's like looking at me, but we got 5 people, and I'm like, well, we fucking got 5 people too, bitch. Like, you want me to give you my fucking shit just because 3 of yours are here now and all mine are ordering? And I let her have it. And basically, they took that. And then by the time the kids ordered and came back, 4 people, or there was like this little group. And I went up and asked these chicks, I was like, hey, can we sit here? I got 4 of them. And, because they would have been in chairs 5 and 6, and there was 4. And I was like, I got 4 girls ordering. Can I put my stuff here? And they're like, yeah, sure. And like, we'll sit here, and then when they get here, we'll leave and you can have our chairs. And so that was very nice of them. I appreciate you. But what else? I got to go see the World Trade Center Memorial, um, the waterfalls. Um, that was pretty neat, pretty special, and everybody, kind of reminiscing, us older people, where we were, what we were doing during that time. And, hmm, yeah, I missed the Statue of Liberty. We took a boat ride up to that, but I fell asleep, and my daughter didn't wake me up. Instead, she proceeded to allow me take a picture of me sleeping instead of going, "Hey, that's the Statue of Liberty." But I was so tired. And that's what I was saying. Like, I did not, thank goodness I didn't take my laptop because I wouldn't have been able to open it. I didn't even go on my phone. Like, I think I might have posted like a couple, like, just updates and talked to my wife a couple times a day, um, because we were getting ready to have a grandchild. And outside of that, it was just all day, 4 to 5 days. And that first day being like a 24-hour kind of day with 1 hour little nap. And then the last day was kind of the same because you pack up to leave. Your stuff goes on the charter bus and you're out in New York all day with only your backpack. Then they drop you off at the airport and there's back in reverse, the rigmarole. And, I think we left Jersey at like 7 p.m., 7:30 ish. Got to the DFW 10:30 ish. And then, or had to have been later. I don't know. All I know is we arrived back at the school at like 1:20, 1:30 a.m. By the time I got home, my it was into sleep. It was 2:30 because my daughter had school Friday, and we gave her the option not to go, but she wanted to go, and her class was going on a field trip to the zoo, and I gave her every out, and because I didn't want to wake up, and then so I got up, and it took me forever to get her up, like 3 times, I'm like, you got to get up. And I'm like, hey, you sure you want to go? Like, but it's like, if I had to get up now, it's like, now I can't go back to sleep. So come on, let's go. Get up. But she got up. She went to school, had a good day. I came back, took a nap, and then picked her up and got a little bit of sleep. And then, yeah, the next day was, I don't know, a play date at the mall with a friend. She says it's not her boyfriend, but who knows? She would hate it if I were discussing this. But outside of that, um, when I did come back, I went and saw a friend of mine's father who has, he's not walking. And, I go over there to visit and, it just, that's what brings me joy is live music and being present with people, I guess. And I left there about 11:30 midnight too last night. But that was kind of one of the highlights of my day. And he's unable to get out of the bed on his own, and so his wife was like, "Well, since you're here, um, I'm gonna go to the dollar store." And I was like, "Okay," because it was one of those things of we were like, I was gonna go earlier in the day, but then like my daughter and this whole going to the mall thing kept going. Like it was supposed to be noon, then it was 1, then it was 2, and they probably arrived at 3. And I'm like, man, I could have went and did this early in the morning and visited. But once we got done, I was like, I just felt called and wanted to go and connect. And so I did, and it was great. Um, just talking about old times and people and life and how things change. And, you know, I went to high school with Evan, so he's a little bit older. He's already had 50, and I'm a summer baby, so I'm turning 50. And, we talk about our parents raised us, and then at some point you're trying to parent them in a way. And, and I can kind of come in and give a little bit of a different perspective because, no matter what, I'm sure his mom always sees him as, you know, even though he's got gray in his beard. So, and he's 50, you know, and sometimes you need an outside source to give them some information because they won't listen to their children, or, you know, I think it's important to stop by and let people know you're thinking about them that's outside of their family, getting to see somebody else and having the opportunity to potentially lift somebody's spirit and, also give them some medical knowledge in terms of, hey, let's make sure we're putting wedges. If he can't roll himself, make sure you're wedging him. We don't want no pressure ulcers or anything like that. But, we're just waiting to see what kind of progress he makes, and I can only be there. I'm just there as a friend and to him, to Evan, and, try to support. This is me gaining my skills uh, as I pursue my death doula certification. You have to have certain things and have done certain things, and I care give as well. So this is kind of natural to me. But yeah, he's somebody I've known my whole life, and his dad was our bus driver and our field guy. Like, did all the lawn mowing of like the baseball fields, the football fields. I mean, he was just always there, and an ever-present figure. And so yeah, getting to go see him. He can't walk and he's having trouble, and it's just nice to connect. I mean, to me, that is life. Um, these moments we have with one another, they're small and fleeting, but those are the things that matter, I think, the most. And I think we often discount them because we live in a society that is driven by, you know, achievement, greed, power, um, capitalism, which I'm not opposed to. But I think when that becomes more important than connection and humanity and love for one another, you know, because I mean, if we look at the world, I mean, we probably have more millionaires, people becoming more millionaires. So we don't have that kind of problem, but we do have a connection problem. Even though we're the most connected than we've ever been, people are still lonely because they think these devices equal connection. Yes, they made our life better and easier and faster and optimized, and we can optimize things, schedule post, all kinds of stuff. But we are forgetting to just conversate, to give someone a hug, give someone a handshake, look in their eyes, see their pain. As a person who's kind of anxiety driven slightly. I felt so calm in New York. I felt actually peaceful there with all the chaos, all of it around me. I don't know why, but it's kind of the same when I worked in the ER. Those situations, I'm able to kind of be in my zone and tune everything out. But I can't remember where I was going with that. Oh, connection, connectivity. And, when I would walk around there, I I would see, like, I see people, but I see the brokenness, the lack of connectivity. You see some connectivity, um, but I see a lot of lack thereof, a lot of individual, isolated people. So that bothers me a little because the more you talk to people, it's like we're all close to the same, you know? A few things are different, but the core, that love, the feel, that want to love, want to need, be loved back, want to be thought of, not want to be forgotten. Just like me going and seeing Mac. Glad I did. So, and I did a little PSA earlier, because I thought of him, I thought of Buck. And another gentleman we help who's having, his walking isn't the best. But it's like, I told the kids we were doing all that walking. They didn't like it. We're in Texas. It's spread out. We ride everywhere. They're not used to it. I'm like, you have to be grateful. Grateful you can walk and take advantage of it while you can. Go walk while you can. Because some of the people I work with and caregive for, they would give anything just to be able to walk. And here we are, wanting to sit on the couch all day. No. There might be one day you can't move from the couch. And you're going to fucking hate that thing. So, don't take shit for granted. Your basic things. Be grateful. Utilize it. And if you're not happy with your aesthetics and your health, like I wasn't, walk. That's where it started for me. Walking, listening to a podcast, self improvement, listening to Kyle Smith, his lyrics that got me through some of the hardest times. I quit alcohol, started walking, and it was those daily walks. And they just add up. And then started going to the gym, and now I'll be 50 next month. And I'm weighing between 147 and 155, depending, you know? I helped a guy out of the parking lot a couple of weeks ago. I'm strong enough. Um, yeah, not bad for 50. So I'll take it and be happy with it and be grateful for it. Because I've seen a lot of people who are my age, younger, that look like fucking hammered dog shit. So, but that's on them. You gotta walk. And the longer you let it go, the harder it gets. Your joints will thank you for it. You'll be happy. er, more confident a little bit, then you'll be trying to conquer other areas that you're slipping in. But it starts with there. Health is wealth. Less sick days, less medications, less problems. And like I said, one day you may not be able to walk, and you're sure as fuck gonna wish you did all the walking you could. You'd be like, damn, Richard was right. I've been right about a lot of things. I just look at our older kids and the way we raised them and how people looked at us odd for the way we did things, but I had faith that I was doing the right thing. And it's the same faith I have now that I know what I'm here for, and I know that connection and love, those are the solutions to the world problems. Enjoying being present. That was one of the things about New York and DC. Having to chaperone a group of kids is you have to be very present, super present. And I think we get so wrapped up in looking for the next thing that we forget to be present. And in the death doula world, they say being present is one of the highest forms of authenticity. Being present with somebody there who's actively transitioning. I mean, we all are by the minute, but, being present with each other, not on the phone, not being distracted, not worrying about the next thing. There's something to that as well, because it's almost all we got. And by the time we realize we even have that, it's already the past. But I got to get to bed after I upload this, of course. All for you guys. So, if you're about love, connection, community, being present, fatherhood, self care, mental health, navigating the chaos of everyday life, then you're in the right place. And if you know somebody who needs to be in this place, then send them over. And one more week of school left, which means perhaps I can get back to some interviews, which I'm super stoked about because that's what I enjoy: conversation, connecting with people. It's where I feel most alive. Concerts and or visiting people, especially people who are unable to do for themselves and helping others. Service. They say you feel bad, go do something nice for someone. Yeah, take the shit off yourself. Go do something for someone else. And I even, yeah, you know, I saved this one pastry I was going to eat last, this filled lobster tail. But one of the little boys was like, hey, I was telling him about my fascination with pastries and some of what I got. And he was like, do you have any left? And I'd saved this last one that was filled and stuffed. It was, oh, and I was like, you can have it. Because I want him to experience something. He was in a different group. And I don't know, maybe they didn't have exposure to that. My group liked to eat. So lucky for me. But, he it's about that experience. And for me also, I don't know, it felt good to give away the thing that I saved last, that I deem most important: love. Love for another human, and wanting him to remember something, wanting him to have an experience, and hopefully one day he'll remember that experience and he can pay it forward. And um, you know, I know it's something small, but to me it was something big because I'm a foodie. That's what I go there for, and you know, so yeah, it was a big deal for me. But I feel good about it, and yeah, I'm just excited for the future. I think I'm in the right place. There's just been some signs that, yeah, excited. School's out. I can focus a little more on some stuff, and I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot of grandbaby, which I haven't talked much about because it's still new. And I don't want to talk too much about it. Still, it's personal. It's our stuff. But I'm sure my wife will have pictures of them on Facebook. So if you follow me, you can follow her. You can see. He's cute though. Another little life in the world. Another opportunity to try to raise another good person and add to our collection of good humans. And hopefully enough of us will come around and we can make some positive change for the world. That's my hope and my desire. So, like I said, I hope you're on board. And if you sound like that's for you, that resonates with you, you're in the right place. And again, thank you for sharing your time with me, because time is the only one thing that none of us know how much of it we have. So I don't take it lightly that you would choose to take an hour, 2 or 3, and listen to me talk about what's important or what my views are and why they are that way. And it's because I've seen a lot of death. Therefore, I value life and connection. So I hope you do too. But until next time, like we say, go out and be the person that you want to meet. Peace. Let go. Asteroid of fear.